Hey everyone, here tonight we've got a special guest. This is Charles and he's from infectedbloodaustralia.com. How are you going, Charles?
Very well, thank you, mate. Very well.
That's good. We're coming here tonight. We did a video last night on Instagram just in regards to the COVID-19 manufacturer, CSL, the ones who are touted to do it in Australia, whether it comes from one place or the other. They're the guys that have been given the name to do it. Charles has been involved with a story with these guys for the last, 17, 18, 20 plus years now. And I just thought I'd bring him on board tonight to have a chat about it. There's a lot going on with this over in the UK, and it's sort of been hush here in Australia. So we want to break it out to you guys so that you can hear what's happened. So I'll pass it over to you, Charles. I won't interrupt, and then we'll just go backwards and forwards a bit.
Okay, well, good day, everyone. First of all, thank you very much, Matt. We've had great reaction and response to your interview last night. And as I said last night, and I'll say it again, your instincts are spot on. Again, it's no attack on the mainstream media, but I don't know how many of your people watching tonight have heard of the contaminated blood scandal, or the global contaminated blood scandal for that matter. The blood supply was contaminated in Australia in the 1970s, in the 1980s, and the 1990s, and it was contaminated in countries like the United Kingdom as well. All sorts of people succumbed to infections because of the contaminated blood supply. You had, they weren't necessarily people who were desperate and dying. Oh no, they're actually people getting treatments, people like haemophiliacs, and that's a clotting disorder. And many of them didn't need these treatments. They're presented with these new treatments, they're called Factor VIII. And for example, in Australia, we took a treatment that had been used in the United Kingdom called Factor VIII, and Australia's haemophilia treatment was directly modelled on the UK. Well, what yep. This now there's the UK has got its largest ever inquiry because it's such a scandal, okay, and it's called the Infected Blood Inquiry. Well, they've heard evidence already that the people who we modelled our haemophilia treatment on, those haemophilia directors in the UK knew that this Factor VIII product was transmitting viruses in 1974. Guys, if anyone, a fact check here, type that in and go into Google, you'll see that. I think the Daily Mail had an article, and there's some other papers as well, about how authorities knew in the UK that Factor VIII was contaminated in 1974 and chose not to do anything because even though they said it was transmitting liver disease, right? They said in these documents that this wonderful Factor VIII campaign in the UK unearthed, and this incredible guy, Jason Evans, this investigative journalist, he basically exposed how what they said was they didn't want to damage the reputation of this new medicine, Factor VIII. So what do you know? They go on pumping this garbage out and making people ill. And then the next thing you know, 1978, the POMs send this stuff down to us with all the haemophilia specialists and the haemophilia clinics that are modelled on their centres, and Australians with this who've perhaps got children or loved ones with this rare clotting disorder are sort of promised this new age, and they're swapped from a safer treatment, which was a thing called cryoprecipitate, made from maybe one, maybe two donors. Mm-hmm. And they might need it if they've got an issue in their joints or internal bleed. Not everyone needed it, you see, they could go without. And they're told, no, switch across to this Factor VIII. And this CSL, who are the proposed manufacturers of this COVID-19 vaccine, this mandatory vaccine, were the guys who had this stuff injected into haemophiliacs in Australia and into children. A lot of them were children. Bryce Courtenay, the famous Australian author.
I saw his book, April Fools, I think it was called.
Yes, and The Power of One. Bryce Courtenay wrote that wonderful book, and I'll tell you what, best title ever, because the spirit of that book, we're reliving that right now, and we're more than one now, but this is actually, in a way, it is about one guy. It's in many respects, it's about a boy I went to school with. I didn't know him personally, but I knew of him, and that was my first understanding of AIDS, HIV/AIDS. That was in the mid-'80s. And it was also my first understanding of haemophilia. And so basically I followed his treatment and his ill treatment, or mistreatment, I should say, by CSL and the Australian government. And, that whole way that he was treated, the appalling way he was treated. He needed help. They gave him no help. They made an example of him. And he started me fighting as a tainted blood campaigner. When he passed away in 1989, I'll tell you this right now, in this very room, I said to my mother, yeah, I'll get justice for this. And here I am now with 31 years later. So now we're hearing that this CSL are going to be the proposed manufacturer of this COVID-19 vaccination. I'm sorry. That's why I'm so glad yesterday that you allowed us what no mainstream media has allowed us in Australia. You know, 730 report this year, we tried to get CSL's victims. Yes, everyone, CSL has victims. They've got...
oh, yeah. How many cases? You said there was over 2,000, I think, or thereabouts.
Well, in terms of haemophilia, and CSL were the manufacturers of these products for haemophiliacs from 1978 onwards, this factor VIII product that was so problematic in the UK that came here. And I think the population at that time, and they've never kept good records, by the way, that's the other crazy part about this. They only just updated just how many of them have died, which is why we know we've lost 1,400 now. So we can't keep score because we don't know how many. But no one will ever give us answers. It's shrouded, the whole thing, just as it was in the UK, because it's based on their system. So that's why CSL's game's up in a way, by pretending that everything's been fantastic down here. It's not. It's only a matter of time. And so basically there are probably about 2,500 haemophiliacs in the country at that time. Forgive me if I'm out by some numbers. I don't mean any disrespect. But what I do know is that 1,750 of them acquired HIV/AIDS and hepatitis C from their factor VIII. And that basically every haemophiliac, as I was told recently by a guy, a wonderful guy, haemophiliac, he said every haemophiliac who used factor VIII got hepatitis C. And here we are today. You know, they never got any help. They've had no help. They've lost their homes. Some have lost their families, you name it, careers, everything. And this CSL now are going to be your manufacturer of your forced vaccination that's coming soon. And that's why I'm saying to people, please don't have what happened to sort of the kid I went to school with, or even me. I didn't get a CSL blood product, but I got a blood product. But I'm also a victim of CSL in a way, because my donor, after they found out, I was able to ascertain that after my donor, they discovered the donor that infected me. After they discovered that my donor was infected with hepatitis C in an interview, and that the person had lied on their donor declaration forms about their health history and so on, and lied, and they've been using drugs and sharing needles and so on, which wasn't appropriate for blood donation at the time, or now. And instead of actually warning me that my donor was infected, or the previous recipients of my donor's blood, they actually recruited that donor to donate blood to CSL, so that CSL could make that into products for haemophiliacs. And I found that out probably, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, and I was already a campaigner. And I was so enraged, and that's why I'm still fighting today, because it's one terrible thing that's been hidden after another. And you've opened the door now, or as some mainstream journalists have said, the can of worms that no one wants to open, because no one wants to get into a sort of a fight with CSL, because they're just so big. They're
huge. I think they're one of the biggest in Australia now, and a lot of people didn't know the name of them.
You know what Australia's biggest business is? What do you reckon it is? It's blood.
Yeah.
And you're talking to enemy number one of Australia's biggest business, right? Now,
because you've been threatened and stuff as well, yeah?
Well, there have been things that have happened over the years. I've been threatened legally. There are other things that have happened that will have to be looked at and investigated, in fact. I have sought, I've got friends at very senior ranking police, and I'm very happy to have them as great friends, and they've been friends of mine for decades. So there are things that, I can't go into too much detail about, but it's serious stuff. And I'm also a witness in a major inquiry overseas, and I respect that inquiry, and I respect it needs to do its own investigation. I can't cast any sort of judgments on things, but I'll just say this, it's stressful. Of course it's stressful. I'm a victim. I was only 16 when I opened the door to this whole terrible world. I was a patient. I actually had this disease, as the kid who was the boy in the bubble. You know, funnily enough, if you look on Google, if you look up the boy in the bubble with John Travolta, they made a telly movie. I think it was John Travolta's first telly movie in the 90s. He had severe aplastic anemia. I've got that disease. I still have it today. I still haven't been able to get a bone marrow transplant. And so I needed one back then when I was 16. And as a result, I couldn't get one. And so I was given so many of these blood products, platelets, you know, and I was given an expired blood product that didn't even have any therapeutic value. They just gave it to me anyway, the stupid idiots. And unfortunately, that was full of Hep C. And so I got that. And as a result, I knew that they'd do something like that. And people have often said, you know, because I was one of the first in Australia really to get tested. And even though my doctors said, oh no, you know, there's no need to get tested. We think that you're basically developing a sort of a complex because you've had a life-threatening illness and there's no need for you to get tested, don't get tested. And instead they wanted to send me to get my head read, you know, basically, you're crazy. Yeah. I went and saw outside testing. And because the reason I did was because I knew about this kid I'd gone to school with. He was a haemophiliac who had been given factor VIII and they hadn't helped him at all. And he'd been treated so abysmally. And I thought any CSL product or any government or any agency that treats a kid like that's hiding something. And my instincts, my childish instincts, that's what's the joke of this whole thing, my childish instincts. And that's what I say to kids out there about vaccinations: be pro-choice, follow your instincts. Don't allow anybody to do anything forcibly to you. Please don't. No, because I was that kid once. I wish I could have my time over. Okay, I wish I followed my instincts because it told me something's wrong. Well, I followed them to get tested, and that was because I knew they treated the kid badly. And I've been here ever since. I became a researcher, and I've basically buried my head into this evidence. In this, I've known so many victims, and we've got so many stories. We've got some survivors. We've lost so many people, though. 1,400 haemophiliacs have died.
1,400 people.
1,400 human beings in Australia. Have you ever heard of it? No. CSL, fantastic. Like that lady on the 7:30 report, that Jane
Halton. Yeah.
Jane Halton from the WHO and the former boss of the Federal Health Department, I think, for many years. Gosh, such independence. And now running some very independent, I don't know, pandemic disaster management bureau or whatever it is. I just don't keep up with any of it because you see, it's the same old thing. It's just this insane public health bureaucracy nightmare. And I've been warning people for years. I said, look, after the experience with tainted blood, my partner, I've told her this, she'll tell you. I've said, my biggest fear is that there'll be a sort of, you know, like an outbreak or a contagion or whatever they'll do. Because I said, the reason why it's my biggest fear is because not the supposed contagion. Oh, no, it's them.
Yeah.
They do. No way. Oh, no. And so now they're back with CSL are the answer. CSL are not the answer. They need to answer questions before they can ever be the answer. And that's one thing I'd like to say to everybody. You know, the best way, if you'd like to stop them having this forced vaccination and have choice, is to support CSL's victims. And if you go to our website, infectedbloodaustralia.com, you'll see we've got a form there you can sign, which is support the Royal Commission for a Royal Commission of Inquiry into the blood scandal, the factor VIII scandal, the CSL scandal. Because if you support that, then I can tell you this right now, very quickly, we're building up, we're getting great support. Thank you so much, Matt. We're building now as of last night. And with enough of us now, very quickly, guess what? We'll plop that right on Morrison's mandatory vaccination desk.
Yeah.
And there you go, buddy. Let's have an investigation into the vaccine makers before you dare say 1,400 deaths. Where is that announced anywhere? Where's the apology, Morrison?
I said that. I said when I started researching, I couldn't find this information anywhere until I started talking, and the people that started coming out of the woodwork with this, where this had happened, it's been swept under the rug so badly. And I'll just repeat to the guys, infectedbloodaustralia.com. If you go onto that website, you'll see that there's paperwork that you can fill out, which is going to help these guys with the Royal Commission and doing all this. It's happening in the UK. It's going to come out everywhere. And we can actually put a dent into this gigantic company and say to people, we don't want this vaccine coming from these guys. We don't want a vaccine forced on us no matter what. Matter what.
See, the thing is that people often ask me, because I've known so many people who've been had adverse outcomes from things like vaccines and tainted blood. Of course, they're out there. We never get them on mainstream TV. We should. But for whatever, We don't. I mean, talking on that, the 7:30 report in the ABC, right? So we tried to get CSL's victims on, and we've got our head of our haemophilia campaign who'd love to come and talk to you, Matt, whenever you would like to. So, because I think it's important for Australians to see and meet a regular Aussies here who've been copying this shit, and no one's actually spoken up for them. In the UK, the great campaign is there. As I said, this investigative journalist, Jason Evans, a chap called Anthony Ferrugia, and there's Michelle Tolley, who I mentioned last night, and so many others over there. There's so many other fantastic campaigners. What's happened is that they've nailed it. And Lee is the head of Haemophilia Wales, and all these people did these amazing jobs to bring up this thing that remained hidden. And so now they've got this biggest public inquiry in UK in their history, and the mainstream media have really covered it. And yet, guess what? BBC, they did a documentary on their Panorama program, right? Our version, Four Corners, they did the opposite. They put a thing up about CSL on the end of one of their shows about what a wonderful history they were. And for 100 years, they've been so fantastic. We demanded the right of reply. They refused us. Then they said this year that they'd talked to Greg Ball, who has, by the way, because of CSL, has now bowel cancer and liver cancer due to one of their products. And of course, he and said, "Hey, can you tell us what went wrong with the product? Can you do a recall? Can you find out what happened with that batch?" And they completely evaded the question, wrote back to him and just said how wonderful their company is. The usual bullshit. And so, yeah. Sorry, I hope I'm not bamboozling everyone with this.
No, not at all. I think this is something that people need to know, and that's why I wanted you to come on tonight and get it out to as many people as possible. The idea that 1,700 plus people were infected with HIV, AIDS, and Hep C. The idea that we don't know anything about it. It's been swept under the rug. There's never been a Royal Commission on it. CSL hasn't had to be held accountable at all. And the fact that 1,400 people have died, and you were talking about the fact that this stuff was tested on orphans and young kids. That's the thing that hurts me the most.
Okay, well, let's talk about the testing. You know, in the late 1950s, now everyone, again, these days it's so important to do fact checking, isn't it? Don't believe me, believe your own eyeballs, because that's what's important. And if you look on the internet, you'll see that I think at the Melbourne Age, I'm actually mentioned in it too, but it's the Age and it's polio vaccine tested at orphanages. Okay, and you'll see that the CSL in the late 1950s, we're actually testing on orphan babies, so babies and orphans, right? So, because if you went to people, you know, in Toorak or where people have got more money, maybe, they punch you in the face. But if you go to an orphanage, then you can do what you like. That's the idea of CSL, right? And so we believe that they've actually experimented on haemophiliac children as well here. But we know one thing, they've killed a lot of haemophiliac children. And of course, they got their best buddies. I mean, this whole CSL thing, you know what it smacks of? It's sort of the Australian equivalent of Putin's oligarchy. It stinks. I mean, these guys didn't even warn their own patients in the early 90s and got given this sweetheart deal, this legal indemnity, which meant that haemophilia.
Oh, you're just cutting out. You might have lost your connection.
Their families couldn't sue.
So we'll maybe just wrap up because we don't want to lose the connection and lose the video. But the big thing for people to do to help is, number one, tell this story. Talk to your friends. Don't just keep it on social media. Let people know 1,400 people passed away at the hands of CSL.
Yeah, and you want to get a mandatory vaccination from a company that hasn't answered questions about the 1,400, mostly kids that they killed? What a joke. Look, support CSL's victims by going to infectedbloodaustralia.com, sign the form, okay? And if you do that, it'll be supporting a Royal Commission, and then we'll get a look at what's happening with the CSL and this mandatory vaccine all at the same time. If we do it quickly, we'll stop them in their tracks. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charles. And guys, share this out to everyone you know. Put it into everyone in Australia and outside from our Facebook page. And if you have any questions, ask them in the comments below. We'll put in there infectedbloodaustralia.com. Thank you so much, Charles. And I'm sorry that there's been so much pain and heartache for everyone, but we're here for you now.
Thank you, Matt. Mate, you've been fantastic for me. I appreciate it. Goodbye.
Okay, see you.
See you, mate.
There you go. That was Charles MacKenzie, and we'll get ourselves out of here now. Peace, guys.